Hello and welcome back to the Luckbox Podcast. Today is a CSGO special because obviously next week is the Major. So joining me to talk about everything CSGO is our head of words, Tim. Thanks for jumping on. And
no
using
problem.
your webcam
still working
again.
Out which side is which. Yeah, still working out which side is which, but you know, we're getting there.
Well, yeah, if you want to
It's not
do,
too bad.
if you want to make bunny ears and anything like that,
That's right.
yeah, you're just
I
gonna
went
get it
past
wrong.
that stage in my life a long time ago. Yeah,
Yeah, but
I
thanks
think
for
bunny ears myself. Thanks for having me.
Well, yeah, I mean, we got you on webcam again.
Yeah, it's always awkward, isn't it?
Well, one of the questions that came up because we were asking the community was all about your beard. Basically, your beard dominates the show, I think.
Yeah, it's one of those lifestyle choices where you just wake up one morning and realise you haven't shaved for a couple of years, and it's probably too late to go back at this point. I'm also not going to lie, as when it started, there was definitely a degree of having more than the allocated number of chins for a human being, which is one. I had more than one chin, so I thought, you know, to not have a double chin, you can have a beard instead. But every time I go to the hairdresser, they look at me like, do you want me to do something with that? And I say, no. Our CRM head, David, described it as a Terry Waits beard.
Okay.
It's a reference not everyone's going to get.
Yeah, that's a bit of an 80s. Yeah, you know what? Less said about that, the better, because we want to talk about Counter-Strike. That's why you're here.
Yeah.
We've got some exciting games. Obviously, the Major has been going on for a while now. For me, it kicks off next week's in the bracket, but we've had some brilliant games already, haven't we? What have you seen so far that's exciting?
Well, probably the most exciting thing that I'm sure everyone was glued to last night. Last night we saw Na'Vi take on Team Liquid in what was, I would say, the best game of the tournament so far. Obviously, Na'Vi, it's not necessarily entirely a simple show, but there's definitely a degree of if Simple plays well, then Na'Vi can do anything. If he doesn't, then Na'Vi can't do anything.
I was actually
Electronic
catching that. Yeah.
Well. You watched some of that?
Because you know what? I was watching the Dota. I'm afraid I'm a big Dota fan. But we were flicking back and forth because that game was so exciting.
Yeah.
There was one that was 14-14 and it could have gone either way, I think. I was watching that one.
The level of talent on show is, as well, with that Team Liquid side now having Stewie in place for Taco. Like, obviously, there was a conversation about does Stewie reduce how good your team play is going to be, but from the looks of things, Liquid are still doing a lot of utility damage. They still have a great setup in terms of the way they move around the map. Twist was talking about it on the broadcast, saying he thinks they now have 5 complete Counter-Strike players, which is kind of a weird little dig at Taco's inability to frag, I guess. But, you know, you say what you say. Twist is a brave guy. And, yeah, I think the game last night, it was the first. Of course, the winner went through 3-0, so the winner will go straight into top 8. Liquid were expected, and one of the things I think also the winner was guaranteed not to be in Astralis' side of the top 8 final bracket. So if you win that game, you know that you're not going to meet Astralis until the final if you make it all the way through, which actually looks like being a bit of a bonus given what Astralis did to Cloud9.
Well, I mean, but that's the reason we have this setup, right? This is the reason why IEM is set up this way, so that the 2 best teams do tend to get seeded 1 and 2. And I saw a tweet. Yeah, I saw a tweet from Carmack saying, "Look, this is perfect. We've got the 2 best teams, and they're going to meet in the final now. Aren't we great?" I mean, that is great. That is what you want to see. You don't want to see Astralis knock out Liquid in the first round.
He made the very valid point. Like, Astralis aren't trying to press team in the world in week 1 or 2. Like, that is when they prove they're good enough to make it into top 8. And there's no reason that we should have Astralis face Team Liquid now, because then, you know, you want the best final possible, and you want the 2. And in most sports, in most esports, we work very hard to make sure the bracket works in a certain way whereby the final is the best game. Yeah. And it would have been, you know, it almost sucks to see Na'Vi take on Liquid this early in the tournament because, you know, they're both fantastic teams. But
yeah, but the way it's working is who they're playing next. Is that Avanga? Avenger? How do you pronounce that? Yeah.
Avenger.
I never worry about esports pronunciations anymore. No. But it's working because they're still in that top bracket with MIBR and Renegades where they should be, right?
Yeah.
And how do you think...
Renegades, not sure everyone had Renegades in that top bracket.
Not sure everyone
had Renegades going 2-0.
Well, there's still time, right? So, but first of all, like Astralis and Liquid, they've been as good as they they've been touted as, right? Have they played to their potential? I saw the Nuke game, and that was.
People take Astralis to Nuke. I don't understand why people take Astralis to Nuke. It's like asking Conor McGregor if he wants to have an argument in front of a crowd. Like, you're going to lose that because that's just how it works for him. But I don't know. Astralis have played well. Like I said, they dropped a map. They were playing. No one expected it. In Astralis' best of 3 to make it through, it was Astralis who had a 2-0 record and Renegades had a 2-0 record. I don't think anyone had Renegades picked. They beat. I think they beat FaZe and they beat Ensa to get that 2-0 record. So they beat FaZe, not a bad team at all. And then they took a map off Astralis. At which point, I think Twitter exploded with "Yeah, the boys" was the phrase everyone was going with. It was amazing performance.
What map was that? What were they playing on?
Mirage, I believe they played the best of 3. The first map was Mirage. I'm not entirely sure. I will say there was a degree of server lag that may have contributed some of the round results where Astralis lost.
Really?
But as Astralis are always very keen to point out when they play, and you have to give them credit for it. It was Mirage, Nuke, and then the conclusion was on Inferno. The results are the same for everyone. The conditions are the same for everyone. So everyone has to deal with the lag. Everyone has to play that way. But yeah, I think Astralis have looked pretty good overall. They maybe haven't looked as good as they're expecting, but then, like Carmack pointed out, you're not trying to win the major this week. You're just trying to make it into the last 8. And as defending champions, Astralis don't need to go 100% right now.
No, it's the same in every esport. It's you don't show your hand in the group stages. You wait till you need to, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and I saw Liquid after they beat Na'Vi. They looked very happy with themselves. Job well done.
The IEM Power result that came at the beginning of the year, where they finally beat Astralis in the major final, is definitely going to give them that boost. I also think, while I'm not entirely sure yet if we can say it's an upgrade in terms of team composition, like Stewie is a better mechanical player than Taco, and he will also give them that Stewie 2K I will never lose attitude that is like common among some of those North American players. So I do think Astralis, Liquid, they're both looking very strong right now, and you have to say MIBR, FaZe, Navi, they don't look really close to that level at the moment. FaZe especially they didn't just lose to Renegades. It didn't look like Renegades were sort of even surprised to be winning that game particularly. It was one of those matches where you sort of think to yourself, do they know they're underdogs? Or maybe more personally, are people even scared of FaZe anymore? Like, when you see Guardian and Olaf anymore, do you think to yourself, oh my God? Or do you think to yourself, well, he was good 2 years ago?
Do you think FaZe can qualify now?
I think FaZe can still make top 8, but I do wonder where the long-term future of this team lies. Like, they're being paid a huge amount of money. There is a lot of noise behind the scenes that, due to internal business structure within FaZe, they can't currently spend more money to improve this team, which is why they've been signing the likes of a Dren rather than maybe going for a Simple or a Cold Zera to continue that Galacticos of esports thing they have going. So I wrote before the tournament that there is an outside possibility this could be Guardian's last major, because he's already said FaZe will be the last team he plays for in Counter-Strike. And if things really don't go well for FaZe at this tournament, you have to wonder where the future lies.
He could always go back on his word. But yeah, when I look at FaZe,
retirements recanted in CCS before this.
When I look at FaZe, it feels like it's all or nothing. It's like you got to go glory. You can't be middle of the road with that team, right? You either win.
It's like playing for Real Madrid.
Yeah, or you give up, right? If it's not working, you do. Yeah, I really hope it doesn't happen, because I'm always excited to see it. But for me, I like seeing this kind of team and seeing the experimentation. Does it work? It makes for great viewing. It makes for great talking as well. So I hope.
Does it make for great esports though? Because think about, as you said about Dota as well. The Dota meta right now is moving towards tactics being more important, isn't it? You have secrets showing that you can win a game before you've even clicked a button in the server, because you can get your drafts right in a way they don't know. CS has gone exactly the same way. Astralis is showing that, man for man, they're probably not the most skilled team in the world. Liquid have more skilled players. FaZe maybe have more skilled players, but it's what you do as a 5-man unit that actually wins you matches in CS right now. And I think if you look at FaZe, you just have to say the 5-man unit is just 5 people who are really good at Counter-Strike playing in the same team, but not necessarily as a team in the same way that Astralis or even Liquid do. So
no, but that's where we want our esports to be. That is absolutely where I want to see esports for sure, because I don't want to see a competition for who can click faster, right? That's just not interesting to me. So the fact that, hey, maybe this player is slightly quicker, is slightly more accurate, that doesn't make him the champion, right? Because you know what? That's kind of cool. But what's even more interesting is the way they strategize, where they outthink an opponent and not outclick an opponent. It's not sustainable. It's not fun to watch. And this is not why Counter-Strike is so popular. It's popular because of the strategy and of the cerebral side of the game, I think.
It's better for people like me as well, because when I'm writing an article about why Nico's so good at Counter-Strike, it's basically like you see the guy's face, you click on the guy's face, you're good at Counter-Strike. Yeah. And that doesn't break down into a lot of analysis. Whereas Astralis, I mean, there was a moment when they were playing Renegades yesterday. Dupree basically peaked at the top of mid on, I think it's Inferno, and he sees 3 guys and he gets damage on all 3 of them, but he doesn't kill any of them. But he knows he's damaged a lot of them. And instantly, Mages throws an HE grenade, which clears 2 of them up, kills the... Glaive is spraying the smoke to kill the 3rd person. So, lots of teams at Sponge Broadcast will peak that boiler angle and get the damage on the 3 players. But Astralis then have the coordination to, once you have that damage, instantly follow up with a grenade to finish them off, instantly spray the smoke. And that's what's setting them apart, really. It's that extra level of, you know what you've done, you know how to follow it up, and you can communicate that information so quickly and efficiently that it happens before Renegades even have a chance to react. And that, like you say, it's fantastic to see, because now I can show that to someone else and say, look, even if he's clicking in your face faster than you're clicking on his, you can still beat him like this, and that's what makes team sports so compelling. Sure, fighting games, it comes down to who has faster buttons, but in team sports, that's how we advance into the next level. I think that's why Astralis are good for CS.
Well, I mean, on that subject, this is something that everyone's been talking about. We're on the subject of clicking faces. Yeah, there's been situations where counter-terrorist teams have kept an AUG instead of an AK. I mean, do you want to just tell us this story? What's going on with AUGs right now?
So the AUG, AUG, everyone knows the AUG, and it was in Counter-Strike for years, and it had a few users. NBK picked it up a few years ago. The main difference between the AUG and the M4, there are lots of little differences, like the ability to kill at one shot with close range. But the main difference is the scope, same as the SG553. And it's quite funny. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday who is fantastic at Call of Duty, and he loves the AUG and he loves the scoped guns because it's like COD. And what these guns give you the advantage of is that you can hold a much longer angle than you would be able to with an M4. You have that advantage of accuracy over the AK, who doesn't have that. And because Valve reduced the price of the AUG and the SG by, it's like $150 something, I usually say it's like $50 more than the M4. Since then, we've seen what has been dubbed the AUG meta. It's come in, it's now the second most used gun at Katowice. 24%, I think, of the gun choices have been AUG. As you pointed out, Henry, one of our favorite commentators, even tweeted yesterday that it's kind of weird to see an AUG player run past an AK and not pick it up, because obviously everyone knows the AK, it's a one-tap to the head, and that's what makes the AK special.
When I used to play Counter-Strike religiously, it was just the AK, because you just one click, you just take that little shot, take maybe two, but you don't spray.
I want to point out, to Henry's point, the AK is still the most used gun at this event. It's 38% of, it is still king because it's $4,000 cheaper than the AUG. It is the only rifle, other than obviously it's the only one of those rifles that is a one-tap headshot. But we did a situation where I think it was simple on A-Site Mirage trying to spray MBK from balcony down to CT spawn, and MBK's scope gives him a massive advantage because his bullet spread is much smaller through the scope. So the AUG has changed the meta. I would like to point out Astralis have bought a lot of M4s at this tournament, and they don't seem to be, they seem to understand the AUG as a situational choice rather than like fundamentally better. And I think that is how it should be as well. It should be considered a situational choice, but it is probably the biggest change we've seen to the gun meta in recent years. It's not obviously been as big on T side because, like you say, the AK is still king. And as Rops was keen to point out yesterday, it has slightly balanced things where they were very unbalanced in favour of the AK, because previously, if you were holding an angle with M4, you were going to get swung on, you were going to get one tapped, and there was nothing you could do about it. And now, Rops pointed out, instead of whining, why not make a little bit more difficult for the org player? Throw a flash, a team player more advanced. So, when you're swinging that angle, you throw a flash and you swing wide. Now the scope is not an advantage because now your field of view is limited, and you have to, it's more difficult. But at the moment, the AUG is dominating the CT side. There are a lot of reasons, and there's going to probably be a price balance after the major. We don't know how much that's going to be. I've got to say, given that it's $150, the price has changed. It is amazing how London, no one's using the AUG. Less than the price of a flash is taken off it, and suddenly everyone thinks it's overpowered. So it does say a little bit about how capricious Counter-Strike players can be with that.
But it's always like this in a game. The trends, I don't think, can always be explained by the evidence, the information. Like sometimes trends just happen, and you're not entirely sure why, but they seem to work. This is how the meta evolves sometimes.
And it's sometimes about what is in and what isn't. Like, it's, the map meta. Astralis at a certain point are going to lose on Nuke. And part of that is because they've won 30 matches in a row now, and people are going to stop picking Nuke into them eventually, because why would you pick Nuke into Astralis? So Astralis will stop practicing Nuke, and then eventually it will come round again, So it's like people don't know how to play against it right now. So maybe that's part of the issue as well,
It's all confidence as well. You know what? If you pick up a gun that makes you feel good, it's going to help you play better. I don't know. It's all a mind game sometimes. So I don't want to analyze too deeply. You expect
the guys in our Discord, will also tell you the org is much more common at lower levels because it is a little bit easier to use in the M4 because you have that extra range.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we should necessarily be applying that to people like Simple and Shocks who have a different.
I think they can handle the recoil.
They've probably played a little bit of CS,
A little bit of CS. Okay, so before we wrap up, do you wanna like give us your picks, because we're actually in the Friday now. Games are probably kicking off, but we don't know exactly who's qualified for next week.
Today we have taking on both right now.
Oh, apologies, by the way. The sound is cutting out a little bit, I think.
Okay.
I think I overdid it on the bandwidth settings, but you're okay. It's actually not that bad. Don't worry.
So we have Renegades taking on Vitality now. I believe those are 2-1 games. So the winner of that makes it through. I think either of those teams going through 3-1 are going to be absolutely ecstatic with that result. Because let's be honest, this is Vitality's first major as a group. And Renegades, I fairly wouldn't even expect them to be here. So that game, I think whoever wins happy, but I'll probably pick Renegades out of that one because they seem to be a better unit. Having said that, I'm not watching the stream right now, so if Renegades are getting beat 16-0, recount what I just said.
It's okay. We recorded this at 9 a.m, didn't we?
We recorded this at 9 a.m, yeah. Na'Vi, Avangar. I love Avangar. I really think James is a top talent, but if Na'Vi lose that game, then they need to actually examine themselves and what they're doing at this major, because man for man, they are just more experienced, more talented, and they have no excuse. And then, my game of the day, I'm looking forward to NIP versus MIBR, because you've got major winners across the board. I think 4 of the MIBR players have won majors. You got NIP, and I think those 2 teams. Let me just check the records. Are they 1-2 teams or are they 2-1 teams?
2-1 right now. So
they're 2-1
whoever
teams.
Wins will go through. Loser will have to win the next game.
That could be a really fascinating series, though, because these are all best of 3s. There's going to be a really good test of both those teams. I think today actually is going to be one of those days where we find out if this is going to be a 2-team major or if this has the potential. Of course, tomorrow we've got FaZe and those, but I don't know if FaZe are even a contender at this point.
They
Basically,
need to win the next 2.
Find out.
Yeah, we're going to find out everything.
Find themselves 1 and 2. But if MIBR look good today, and if Navi look good today, then next week is going to be could be a really interesting 4 or 5 contenders.
Yeah.
But there's equally a chance that today we find out that next week is going to be Team Liquid versus Astralis, and everyone else just turned up to be, in the pictures.
Well, okay, but while we don't know exactly which 8 teams will be on the SPO deck, and we know, I mean, let's be honest, it's Astralis and Liquid are the obvious ones.
Yeah.
Who's your dark horse pick out of the rest? I mean, we say dark horse; they're all big names, obviously, but who can challenge these guys?
So I'm going to preface this with a little. I grew up playing rugby. As a result of that, if I have to pick between any sets of different people and I can't really tell other than that, I'm going to go with the Australians. I go with Renegades because the mindset that team seems to have compared to everyone else is just different level. The positivity, the togetherness. Equally, I don't really know if you can be credible and put MIBR or Navi as a dark horse pick, given that you have the greatest player of all time and multiple time major winners on them. So if I'm going for one of those teams, I've got to say Renegades. They took a map off Astralis. They're not making up the numbers. And Asian CSGO being here to play and not make up the numbers, I'm going to celebrate that all day.
No, and that's what we want to hear, because it is about the excitement, right? Yeah. I mean,
they bring that in space.
But that's the thing. The Australian teams always overperform, I find, when it comes down to it. So,
well, this is the problem. Traditionally, that Renegades team for years, Asian minor, they had like a semi-mixed team, so some Oceanic, some American. They would stomp the Asian minor, they would come to the major, and they would do nothing, to the point where people used to actually say, why did they even get to play?
No, sorry, we lost you for a second there. Yeah, just the last 5 seconds again, please.
I was just saying, so they used to stop the minor. Now they turn up, they actually play games. Some Astralis, they go 2-0 in this week before they lose to Astralis. So, yeah, it's not just the excitement of being at the major now. It's actually being part of the major and playing. We're not here to make up the numbers. We're not here to have fun. We're taking games. If Renegades play FaZe right now, I think most people put their money on it, and that says something for what this team has achieved in such a short period of time.
Yeah, I mean, and looking at the rosters, it's like, wow, if you're sitting pretty looking favourites against FaZe, then
there's a changing of the guard, man. I've been saying this for Kenny S, or do you take Zywoo? You take Guardian or you take Gratisfaction? Right now, there's a real changing of the guard. We're seeing new talent, 16-year-olds on Ensa, 18-year-olds on Vitality, from a player point of view. And if you can't keep going to MIA, struggling to even make the last week of the major, whereas you thought you were going to be a favourite because you've got these big names. Doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, and apologies again. We got a little bit of cut out there. Sorry for people listening in. And the last thing on our answer. Everyone was hoping ENCE would make it, and yeah, I mean, can they do it? They need to win the next 2. I really want them to be.
Pick'ems. Turns out that I want ENCE to go through too. ENCE are advancing. ENCE are getting better with every tournament they go to. This is the first major for a lot of these players. Don't forget Sergey, however you say his name, he's literally come into this team as a 16-year-old. He's that good. He's competing with 10-year veterans. And so whatever happens for ENCE now, I think this tournament has already been a massive win for their project. They're not 0-2, they've got a win already under their belt, so I want to say.
They've got one win, yeah.
So they guaranteed a spot next time round. They've already won 1 game in this level, so they guaranteed a spot for next time round in the Legend stage.
Yeah.
I don't want to sound too patronising, but yeah, I think ENCE, whatever they do from this point on, have already had a victory at this major by guaranteeing a spot for next major. And finish CSGO proving you don't mess with Finns.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing.
And congrats to Alu, by the way. Had a baby in between week 1 and week 2.
Wow.
Became a father.
Okay, congratulations. I was hanging around with some Finnish people last night, and by the conversation then, it seemed like ENCE were the best team in the world. But hey, they've got a little way to go. They've got a little way to go from the expectations.
It's easy for ENCE, that's what we know.
Yeah. All right, brilliant.
There's a lot of song, by the way. Check out the ENCE song on SoundCloud. There's literally a single being released by a band called Easy Threads, which is on SoundCloud and YouTube. The viral marketing.
Oh, brilliant! We'll go check that out. Thanks for joining us. We are looking forward to the games next week. It's gonna be exciting stuff. And hopefully we can get you back on to talk about the results after it's all finished. So I think that's all from us for now. This is the Luckbox Podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, there's also a SoundCloud version. And for all of you interested in esports, come join us on Discord, where we're sitting there and chatting about all the games. We'll be doing a viewing party. Tim's joining me on Sunday, the 3rd of March, where we're going to have our own little discussion going on during the final. So come join us on Discord for that. Thanks for joining me, Tim.
Thanks for having us.
Yep, and we'll see you again soon.